Welcome to the Life of Phys Podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Martin, and on this episode I have Nate Valentine. Nate is a New York City-based photographer and videographer. We discuss the current state of photography, upcoming projects, the connection between creativity and mental health, and why building a community is so important. Now let's hear a word from our podcast partner and get to the show. The Life of Phys Podcast is lit by HoboLight. HoboLight is on a mission to empower creators to elevate their creativity with lighting kits made to last and built to inspire. These lights are bold, beautiful, and powerful because HoboLight believes that your lights deserve to be seen. To learn more, follow them on Instagram at HoboLite.
It is an honor to meet you, Mr. Tyson. My name is Nathan Valentine. I am a graphic designer and photographer based out of New York City. I've been working as an art director, as a freelance art director for the past 6 years now. And this story that I'm about to tell you, my personal story, is really one of persistence. And I think it's going to resonate with a lot of creative people out there. I like what you're doing here at Life of Phys. I told a couple people that I was recording today, so they're gonna pick it up and listen to my great and projecting voice, I suppose. So, yeah, based out of New York, a big film guy. I actually started as wanting to get into animation as a kid. Like I was gonna be an animator. And I have a younger brother. We had this crazy plan. So, I mean, yeah, listen, typical 80s kid, grew up in video games and, X-Men 97 just came out and that's, that show was part of my life as a kid. And then all like the merchandising with the toys and the comic books. And during that time, I started to develop a love for movies. Shout out to my grandmother because the first R-rated movie she let me watch was Speed. And and Speed is basically Die Hard on a bus. But it's funny that was kind of like the first movie I saw because there's so many connections between Die Hard and Speed that really made me start to think like, wait a minute, there may be something to this movie thing if this whole animation stuff didn't work out. And I'm thinking this at like when Speed came out in like 94, it had to be like, I wasn't even 10 yet.
And just so you know, Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
Yes. Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
I had to put it in there.
Bought it. No, listen, I'm with you. I actually bought it on Christmas. So I'm hanging out with my family. It was a couple years ago. I'm hanging out with my family. I buy it on Apple TV. It was $10. And I think I have the actual DVD copy of it somewhere. But I didn't care. I bought it anyway. And I'm hanging out with my family. It's like, and they're looking at it, it's like, you're watching Die Hard. It's like, yeah. It's like, why? It's like, it's a Christmas movie. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, it takes place on Christmas. That counts as a Christmas movie. You could even say, there's a few of them out there like that, but I can't remember them. Anyway, so yeah, big into movies early. Ninja Turtles, Nintendo SNES, all that. That was my life. And I didn't start getting into I started getting into photography when I was 14, but I didn't really start doing stuff with it until I was 18. So like I just tell people I started when I was 18 because it's easier. But if you ask my grandfather, he would say, no, he started when he was 14. But whatever. I was little. All right. I started when I was little. The point is I started when I was and I didn't really start figuring out what I was doing for a while. Like actually, like I picked it up and I started doing like, political events and working as a journalist because my grandfather he's a photojournalist. That's his job. Like he goes out and um he'll capture construction sites as they're going up and uh you know important events in the community. So so a lot of the guys in like the newspaper crews, he knows those guys because he's worked with them as a freelancer. So he's old school. He's like straight up old school. But I started working with him and I did that for a couple of years, and then I started doing concerts and music events because my father, was working as a musician at the time. So times I was there, so I was like, yeah, all right, sure, whatever. Didn't really think much of it. And um, from there, I started doing nothing. I actually put the camera down for like I didn't touch the camera for like 3 years. Like I didn't do any professional work for 3 years after that. Like because I went off to school, and in school I did the photography class. I did my pre-grad, but I did it as an elective. I didn't think of it as like a serious thing. And and then after that I put it down again. But I always had a camera. I still always had a camera with me. I still had like if you remember the little Canon the power shot elves, like the little. I did. It's the same form factor, but just not as good. But I used it to kind of like because at some point I thought that if animation just completely didn't work, I always wanted to be in that realm of capturing something. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll pivot to like music videos because music videos are fun, right? So this little camera was my way of just having like, just using it to practice like composition. And literally that's it. Like trying to understand like, okay, when do I run flash? When do I not use flash with this little thing? Because that flash would be like super harsh and you don't want to wash out people's faces, things like that. Right. And when I graduated in 2008 from when I left college and I came home, it was 2 years later, and I looked around and I was like, you know what? Uh, maybe I can do this camera thing full time. So, I dug up my old Nikon D70. Oh Christ! Oh, the memories. That little rusty dusty thing, man, that carried me. That carried me for those first couple years. I started doing raves, and then I went from raves to festivals, and then I went from festivals to start doing like in studio stuff, and it was like consistent for like that was like on and off for like 3 4 years, and then I was doing graphic design on the side. Uh, you know, I helped build this whole magazine. A lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Like I was having a lot of fun. But um something happened. Like we was doing that for a little while, like around 2015, 2016, things started getting well, no, wait, no, I'm sorry. 20 around 2013, things started getting really, really serious, right? I already had my Nikon D300, with the pump 1116, 2.8, so you're always shooting super wide stuff um for all my events. And and then it got stolen. And
Talk about a bummer.
that took all the wind out of my sails, man. Like I was by 2013, I think I was on the edge of really like starting to cross over early, and I would have been in a much better position now. And if you look at a lot of the timelines that if you ever like if I'm gonna do some shit real quick. Like if you ever took everybody has like a timeline of their life. Like you have events that happen in your life that happen as they are, right? And there's always like what ifs and what if it did, what if it went this way, what if it went that way, alternate alternate things. And I'm sure if if you took what if you took like a string of events that happened in that life at that time, you can always see where it could have went differently. And that was like one of those things where it was like really it was tough, man. That was really that was I didn't realize how bad my mental state was after that happened because all of everything was set up to completely just take off. And and then that happened. I was dude, I was devastated. Um and then I switched. I had no choice but to buy the Fuji. And that's when I bought the Fuji X100S. Let me tell you about something. This is 2014. At this point, I'm just kind of like, well, I just have to save, I have to hustle and make that money back so I can go out and get another camera because I can't be without a camera. I've been doing it for too long. I didn't really have anything else to fall back on. So I'm like, fuck, I gotta get all this cash, right? So in the midst of this, I went and sought advice from my grandfather on what to do. I went and talked to his friends that were, that were working in the industry. It's like, hey, I'm kind of starting from zero again. So I need some assistance on figuring out, okay, what can I do? You know, right? There's like this by the coffee shop where I used to work, there was a camera store, but like an old school camera store, right? You go in and they still have like the copying machine and they got like the cut and prints on the side and they got the glass cases with the books and all the all the picture books and all that. I went into there and then these guys are kind of like a lot of older guys kind of huddling around and talking about Fujifilm. And at this point, I'm kind of like, I didn't really understand like like Fujifilm, like what aren't those the guys that they make the film, right? Like, why are you talking about what are you doing? Like at this point, me still being a noob at this and that, not understanding what they're doing, I'm just like, well, why are y'all talking about Fuji? And the guy is like, he's talking to me, is like, what these guys have done have basically taken the form factor of a rangefinder camera and made it digital. And I'm like, what? Doesn't make any sense. A load of crap. Doesn't make any sense, right? Um, and then I'm looking around and I start talking to the other photographers because they know they're working with this stuff on a day-to-day basis. If you're looking to buy a camera, you ask another photographer what kind of camera you should buy. They're going to give you an opinion. And this was before threads and Twitter and all this shit, so I couldn't really rely on that. So I just went out and just started talking to people. And the more I talked to people, the more responses I started getting back, like saying, like, listen, Fuji is on to something. We don't know what it is, but there's some kind of magic because the photographers who pick up a Fujifilm camera and are able to use it and are saying it's like, man, like it feels like home. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels like a homely thing. Like I don't feel like foreign like I did with the DSLR.
That's exactly what I feel about my Fuji stuff.
Okay, yeah. No, fine. Yeah.
It just makes it easier. So I'm a huge Fuji guy. This is what I want to do for a living. I don't know if you know much about me. I was a single dad for 10 years to 4 kids. So I left a career, went and worked in a bicycle shop during the day, made dinner for my kids, did their homework, got them to bed, had a babysitter, and went and made donuts at night just to pay the bills. And then a few years ago, I picked up a camera when the XT3 came out. So I've only been shooting for about 6 years. That was my first major camera, was the XT3.
Oh yeah, that's a good start, man.
Yeah. And, it's such a rewarding experience. I was heavily into skateboarding for 35 years, and then I got hurt. That was my creative outlet. I got hurt. It's hard to even stand on a board anymore. So I had to find something to replace it. And that's where photography came in. And then I realized I really liked talking to photographers and artists in general. So the last 2 years has been trying to get my butt in gear to do this podcast.
I see.
So yeah, the Phys name comes from, it actually started as a fixed gear bicycle brand that my friend and I started. So
no way, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was called Pedal Harder, You Sissy.
Pedal Harder, You Sissy.
Yeah.
I like it.
Obviously, we were young. We didn't have any money to make it go any further. So I said to him, he's like a brother. He's my brother from another. And I said, someday in my life, I'm going to use the Phys name, and it's going to be something. So now I changed it, and it stands for Photography Heals Your Soul. It's all about building this community of people that will allow others to ask questions, talk to people if they need it, and just help uplift the artistic community instead of always beating it down.
Yeah. We're taking in the teeth, don't we?
Oh, yeah. That's an understatement.
Listen, man. I think any artist can appreciate the value of like persistence, man. Like for real. So that's kind of like why. I mean, anyway, no, because you got in there with the Fuji. I was just like, I got sidetracked.
Sorry, buddy.
Wait a minute. No, it's all good. It's good. No, it's good. It's good. So this is how I came across mine. Basically, is that after I spoke with all these dudes, they were saying that, hey, because this is when the X100 came out. So this is when right when the X100 came out, and then right after that, the S came out. So that's the Model 2. That's the one I have. That's the one I've still been using to this day. And the reason, and it's really just kind of like, well, again, there was just a lot of stop and start because there was always a concern about money. There was always concern about money. And it just like just shooting all the time wasn't doing much for me at that time. So I always had to like put it down and figure out something to do before I never was fully into it, right? So this is the first time that I can say I've been like fully like into it and like really kind of like being consistent and building a style. Yeah, and I appreciate it, man, because like it was like it just took a lot to pick it up because I'll tell you, it's kind of like I see it as a gift and curse kind of thing a little bit because I see it all the time. I see these images all the time, and that's kind of like my way of expressing myself. And in a world where it just seems like there's more and more things trying to take that away. And me, I'm a rebellious son of a bitch. I can't live by that. I can't live by that mantra at all. I look at it and say, all right, well, I'm gonna do it. Like, you're not gonna stop me from not doing it.
And that's the first step to chasing your dreams and achieving your goals. I sat on episode 1 of the podcast for 7 hours with the upload button up and just talked myself out of pushing the upload button the whole time on episode 1. What do you do, man? You just gotta push that shit.
You gotta pedal harder, you pussy. Oh, sissy, sorry. Pedal harder, you sissy. Pedal harder, you sissy.
Yeah. So I'm my worst critic.
Now listen. Like if you asked me, I would have been making and uploading videos years ago. Because I'll tell you this. 2 years were set up to be big years. 2013 and 2016. I remember that just distinctly. It's 2013 because that's what happened with that camera. And that D300, man, the Nikon D300, I actually been to war and back with that camera. Seriously. Like I dropped that bitch in a pool, and I was just like, well, I gotta let it soak in rice for 3 weeks, and it worked. It worked. Like I just didn't. I was like, well, I just left it in a thing of rice, and I came back 3 weeks and picked it up and started clicking again. So I've actually been to war and back with that camera. So losing it was very, very painful. And then after that, I was like, well, I guess I'll pivot in the video editing. And I started building up. I started like because I also play Call of Duty competitively. I played in a couple of tournaments. I never placed or anything. I just kind of like did it because it was a fun way to channel a lot of that frustration that I was having. Um, I just I just was like, I would just be mad and just be like, all right, well, I got to drop 60 on somebody tonight. That's how I would channel my frustration. I think with the gaming, it was another way of me expressing my competitive drive in nature because of I played basketball when I was a kid. I also skateboarded, but I knew skateboarding wasn't for me. Like it's one of those things where you're looking and it's kind of like, you try something and it doesn't, if it works, you're kind of like, yeah, maybe I should do it more. If it doesn't, you're kind of like, nah.
Yeah.
Like skateboarding was one of those things, man. Like almost, I was busting myself up real bad. And I was just like, oh, no, 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 no. But basketball was always part of my life. And some of that channels into when I game. I actually had to stop playing because I had ankle issues, had bad ankles. So we looked at that and it was like,
Ankles are important in basketball and in skateboarding. Mine was broken 9 times, so that was the end of skateboarding.
no, no, no. I just listen. I had some really bad sprains. I was just like, I don't like it. I don't like it. Mm-mm. I tell you, I went to a basketball camp in Pennsylvania, and I was being groomed to be a more of like a lanky two who can rebound. So I don't even know what you would call that, but like, yeah, like I went to this basketball camp in Pennsylvania, and the first day I got there, I started playing, and at the end of the day, I couldn't walk. I could not walk. Sprained both my ankles, man.
First day.
First day.
Oh, shit.
Shit. It is right, man. Like I'm like my dad's gonna be pissed because he paid for my money for me to come here. And I'm just looking, and he's like, "Why ain't you playing?" I was like, "Bro, I'm injured. I cannot walk. Like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do is go out there." I quickly realized that extremely strenuous athletic activity was something that I was gonna have to focus 100% on if I wanted to succeed in it, and it just wasn't gonna work. Some people ain't got the juice, bro. Like I still get out there and hoop today. Like I don't mind. Like, I got my basketball in the corner, but
It
honestly,
takes
this is
100% dedication for sure.
yeah, man. So I like to say I stuck to my strengths. I figured out what I was good at. I was just like, let me just stay in my lane.
It's important for people to understand that as well. It's important to be 100% dedicated to the craft, whether it's skateboarding, basketball, football, art, photography, illustration.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important that we're 100% committed because that 10,000 hour motto is so true. You get what you put into it.
That's right. Oh, that's right.
And I'm looking right now. I have if you can see right here, a little bit of the screen, I actually have your Instagram up, and I'm looking at that photo.
Oh, look at that.
This guy right here.
All right.
I love the city, but I also love the fact that the guy's on the bike with the LeBron James jersey, dead center of the screen, and that's the focal point.
Yeah, that was a fun one, man. That
Fuji
was fun.
XT4, I'm assuming.
No,
What?
X Pro One. now see the only thing about that X Pro one, God bless its young little heart. God bless. I had that little beast because I got that. I think I grabbed it before I got the X Pro. I got the X100S because I think I needed something to kind of like bridge the gap. And at that time, I got the lens and the body together. So I was just like, all right, I'll just keep it. And I was using it and I could never find the batteries. So eventually I was like, listen, I had to swap that to get the X-T4.
The 35-1.4 is one of my favorite lenses ever from Fuji. It's all about having fun, man. I love having people on that I feel I can vibe with. So this one for like the last week, I've been so excited. I'm like, man, he's a cool dude. Like I'm looking forward to getting to know him and getting to, pick your brain about, the city that for some reason I absolutely love. I've never been to, but I love New York. I don't know what.
To kind of like start like digging into like the style because like for a long time I didn't really have a style at all. I was just kind of like just shooting or whatever. And and as time went on, I started realizing that if I'm going to be working in, as a DOP at some point, I want to start thinking how other DOPs think. So I think if you were to say what that style was, it would be basically that. Just think like finding a way to finding a way to create a story in that photo, right? Tell a story in that photo. Because when you're doing it in film, you have to do that for the context of an actual a script, a screenplay, players in place in order to the make it happen. And you have to do it with multiple cameras. Now I'm still just trying to figure out the one camera, you know, just trying to figure out one camera first before you start going into multiple camera setups and multiple lights and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of like what the style is. It's not, I don't want to say it's too it's not, I don't see it as complex. Yeah, like that's when I say that it's the style that I kind of like works for me, and
Yeah, no,
that's pretty
that's,
much it.
we all have our own look at things. I mean, I love your music photos. I don't know. I pretty much just dig your style. I think you've nailed it. It's definitely works for you. And everybody has a unique look. I've gone through those phases. Everybody goes through super vibrant, super moody. And you kind of play with it like an EQ. You kind of just keep fiddling until you find that look
Mhm.
and you just run with it. And once you find it and you stick to it, sky's the limit because you've already established the hardest part. You have a look. Now you just go out and sell that look and you make a difference.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at now. I think up to this point, I've never really put the marketing power behind the work itself because you see, you're on there, you're on the site right now, right? Like, there's not a lot of, I don't do a lot of selfies. I try to keep it, I try to keep it pretty lean, and whatever's going on there is just basically try to kind of like have like the best of the best. That's why I don't post. Like I post a lot, but I don't post a lot, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you're just trying to keep this as your portfolio. This is your work. This is a way for people to hop on and be like, "Oh, damn! I see what it works for. Like, I can make this work in this avenue." Where if you looked at mine, I just post whatever the hell I feel like, and
Mm.
if I like something, it goes up. If I like someone else's work, I reshare it. I don't really have. I don't look much into my social media platforms as anything but a way to share my love for art.
Yeah,
This is my
yeah.
platform now. This is the one that I care about. This is the one where I care about my guests. I care about what happens with this one, and I want to see something made of this one.
Well, okay. So let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. In a way, if you're treating your social media like an art gallery, everybody then is their own curation, basically. Everybody's curating. And I think that is the the skill that every creative should have is curation, right? Like people are making billions of dollars off of curation.
Yeah.
Listen. Okay, hold on, wait, hold on. I need you to understand something about me right now. Well, the funny thing, I'll actually say this. This is actually very unusual for me to come on to a pod. Like being invited onto a podcast to me is like a tremendous honor because I'm known to shoot off at the mouth quite frequently. Not in a bad way though. Like I just it's just kind of like I just I say random shit.
I'm the same way. So
And and it's like either and a lot of people are kind of with that. A lot of people are clearly not with that at all.
your story's your story. And you did ask me earlier if I had Steve on. I did have Steve Caballero. I recorded with him 2 weeks ago.
You did.
I did, yeah.
I thought, oh shit.
OG. OG Pal Peralta. Dude's a fucking incredible human being. It's right here on the screen. So I've
It's
had
already up.
no, that one's new. You're selling yourself short, buddy. I'm sorry to tell you.
I don't want to say no. See, I don't want to do it. I'm not trying to, the thing is just it's just kind of like that would be a cool person. Like, I'd be really cool to meet Steve the man.
He was very open.
I don't know why I said it like that.
We only talked skateboarding for maybe 10 minutes. Then we talked about his art. We talked about his music. He's a musician, and he has a band called Urethane.
Oh.
Then we talked about his love of motorcycles, his love of hot rods.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much God related. Like he's Christian, and he's very much believes in the power of God, not so much Christian people. But he gives a lot of wisdom, and I just gave him a platform to just be himself and just share without having to be like,
right. That's radical, man. Yeah, he's big deal.
I'm loving just getting to know people. I feel like I can go anywhere now in the East Coast and I have somebody to shoot with. So
that is radical. Listen, anytime, man, anytime you're out here. Although I don't know how much longer I'll be out here.
Oh yeah, well, there's some insider information.
No, it's not bad. New York is kind of becoming a little bit of a hole.
Every place is changing rapidly.
Take that. Yeah, take that as you. It may be time to migrate.
Where would you migrate to?
I don't know. I think Virginia. I mean, Virginia's fun for a while. I'm not staying there forever. I think I'm in a position where I have not that much stuff that I can kind of like move around a little.
Yep. Something new.
The next couple of years are going to be interesting.
Well, I mean, you're pushing yourself hard, so.
Yeah, like because like I'm looking at it and saying like, yeah, with what's been going on with the shots, and I appreciate the love I'm getting, and I know it's time to push it to the next level. And so, it's getting a good reaction from everyone. I mean, it's really it's interesting because it's really putting myself out there. It's like because all that work you see is just a lot of it is just an expression of an emotion that I would just normally never show. It's kind of wild, right? If you really think about it.
It is. And
it's like
you're putting yourself out there for the world to judge. And that's always such a hard thing for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
People online they can be so harsh and so rude with anybody's work. And it comes down to a lot of times that it's jealousy from what you've been able to create and capture, especially in the photographic space, right? Everybody here is better than somebody else, and they have no problem telling you that. I don't know if you heard or you listened to the Ryan HK episode 4.
Not yet.
You should. He's unbelievably funny.
It's funny. I think like photo criticism is really just kind of like a super subjective thing. Like I've kind of had to like I've had to like learn that um, when just putting things out there to be judged, you have to understand that people's styles or people's visions aren't going to align with like they'll see something as well, their view of things that are good is different than somebody else. Kind of have to just respect, kind of just be like,
Well, that's what art's all about.
all right.
Art is subjective. So think of people like, I love artists, painters. So Jean-Michel Basquiat. How many people do you think criticized his work? I mean, I first saw it and I was like, did someone's kid do this? Like scribble this out? And I didn't understand until I watched documentaries and learned about him, the feeling and thought process he used to create those images. Or Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol in a Campbell soup can. A lot of people didn't think that was art, but he created a look that people loved. So how can we judge that? Because that's an individual expression, and that's what art is.
Exactly.
So, it's what are your plans, man? What are you going to do to push yourself to the next level? And how can I be supportive?
Right now, I got just putting out some prints, just some of the more recent pieces. We've gotten good positive opinions on the ones that people like. I feel like in doing this, kind of a bit of a science experiment. You put them out on certain platforms. You're kind of like testing the market and figure out what's your uh, audience, right? So the people who are coming and kind of like checking out the art and saying, "Oh, hey, I really like this one," or "Hey, I like this one," or maybe this one gets this much, maybe this montage gets this much. Um, you look at that and you're saying, should we make prints of the ones that people like the most? It's an experiment, you know. It's also I'm also working on a photo book,
Nice.
which is really just kind of like yeah, just really just kind of like putting out some of the greatest pieces that I've had and maybe some new pieces and trying to like build a theme around it. I've kind of been like very obsessed with like espionage movies. I got Tenet on right now. I'm not really, not it's on, it's background. So it's on mute. Sometimes sometimes you can have a movie on mute in the background. It's kind of like that like a chill
Yeah, you can also find inspiration.
kind of thing.
I have a plan. I want to do a couple portrait shoots, but use classic movies as the theme. So Scarface.
Ooh.
So Al Pacino, Michelle Pfeiffer, right? Right there in their classic attire. The movie The Mask with Jim Carrey and Cameron Diaz when he's got the mask and the yellow zoot suit on and she's dancing. So just recreate these things. Roger Rabbit, Dick Tracy, all of these classics, and then recreate them with couples as just a style of photo, which is new to me because I'm not a portrait shooter. So trying to figure that out and trying to move into it.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. So that's something I have in the back of my head, and just figuring out how to put it all together and make it work it'd be fun to collaborate with, people from different coasts. So like West Coast, Central, and then East Coast, have three or four, maybe six people, two from each area, just putting their take on it. And then it's not a competition, but it's a way for us as a community to see the different ways that people shoot, the different styles.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's something
That's
that I have in the back of my head. There's a young guy, episode 1, Al Villion. We kind of had that idea working on that together.
I got something for you that I've been kind of percolating. I want to do like it'd have to be like a Untouchables kind of thing. Brian De Palma, big suits, Tommy gun, cigar, fedora, you know what? But instead of well, you use that aesthetic, but you swap like the, the Tommy Gun Gangsters with G-Men,
Yeah, okay, I like it.
right?
There's so many. If
And
you think
you just
about that whole thing, I mean, I'd like to go as far as recreating scenes with O-Dog and in the Mustang and everything in Menace to Society, right? Like just recreating cinematic masterpieces in with a current twist with the technology of camera we have now. So this is something we can talk about doing together, because I think we both love the cinema enough that we can make this happen.
the double the double cross one the double cross 1 2 to the whole.
Yes, sir. The old Magic Johnson. No, Kareem
I've always
Abdul-Jabbar
been
was
a
the. No, he was the hook. Man, who's the finger roll
I've
man?
always been a dude. I've always been a George Gervin guy.
Okay.
Uh, Not to say that Dr. J had a mean Dr. J had a mean finger roll, man. But Gervin's a bad the Iceman. You take this joint, it goes, he takes it like this. He comes around under the rim, stretch it out. Ooh,
Yeah.
can't get it.
No,
My
it's
man, and
amazing.
he's my man is spread eagle in midair. Oh, dude, I wish I could draw that.
You can.
Actually, you know what? I will. I think the problem I think right now is that in the midst of pushing all this creativity and keeping balance and everything, you also have to remember in the back of your mind, it is about making sure you safe at the end of the day, So like you always have that in the back of your mind, and until that's not really there, I'm always gonna feel limited, which is scary when you think which that's scary.
Hmm.
That's scary when you think about it because it's kind of like you you have to produce excellence on one side, and then on the other side you got all this other jibbly jobbly gobbledygook, right? You got to deal with all that,
Yep. Uh, that's why I
but you
still
still have to produce all this excellence up here.
that's why I still have a 9 to 5. That's why I still work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and I come home and I work a whole other week behind the scenes when I get home.
I wanted to kind of like highlight some interesting things. I wanted to kind of offer some insight about some of the pieces I was doing, and why stick with the Fuji film system, right? I have to look at some of these pictures that I'm making as each one is telling a story. So if it tells a story, then you can I think you can enjoy a photo more if you realize that a memory can tell a story, right? And in order to do that, I wanted to find a way to emulate that snapshot kind of style, right? With let's say a disposable camera, but like it's more, it feels more spontaneous. The whole style is spontaneous, right? And what the Fuji is great at is allowing you to be a part of the environment without disturbing the people around you. And I think that was the biggest selling point when I got the camera. It's like, oh shit, it has a ninja mode. Oh, you can shoot silently. Yes, you can shoot silently. And it had the X100S. It's the first time they started putting in the leaf shutter, so you had high speed sync on it. It was just a little beast. I'm just looking. I'm just like, yo, I can do some great stuff with this. And then you can still add the radios, do all your triggers. So very versatile. Anyway, but the point being, it was. Fujifilm makes the film for all the, for all the other cameras in Hollywood and stuff. So, so I started looking at that. I was like, wait a minute, they're making cameras? Have they always made cameras? I don't know, but I think this may be useful.
I had the same feeling because I got told. I actually went in to buy a Nikon Z6. That was the camera. I was like,
you
okay.
wanted.
So I was that. And
no, have you wait?
Yep.
Wait, hold up. Have you always shot Nikon?
You don't want to hear my history with cameras, man. In the last 6 years, I have such a bad history with cameras.
I'll give you a bad history of cameras. What does that mean?
So my very first camera ever was a Nikon D3000 that I got for my daughter when she went to Mexico. She's like, I need money. Buy this. I said, okay. So I bought it to shoot photos of the kids and whatnot. Figured out long exposure water photography on it. Loved it. And I'm like, oh, I need to upgrade. So I went into the camera shop because the
D3000.
Yeah. So
listen, that's a good little piece.
It is a good starter. I went in because I was familiar with the setup of the Nikon. So I was like, I'm going to move into their new mirrorless. They have the Z system released. I went in to buy a Z6 with a 24-70 f4, and the guy behind the counter, and I didn't even go to a camera shop. I went to my local, do-it-all store that happened to have a camera section. I didn't know. I had no idea. So I walked in and he goes, okay, yeah, I have that camera, but we just got this in. And that's when he put the XT3 in my hand. And I just love the tactile feel. I love the knobs. I love the way it felt. So he's like, nobody's really shooting these right now. This is kind of a new thing. I said, okay, I'll try it. So I got,
really?
Yeah. So I got the XT3, the 18-55 and a 55-200 as a bundle. And I went and shot that for a while. I loved it, but then I thought wildlife was what I wanted to shoot. So I sold all the Fuji gear. And then I ended up picking up a Nikon D500 with a 200-500 to go shoot wildlife. And then I hated it. So I sold it all. So I had a D810 with the 24-70 2.8, and then I had the 500 with the 200-500. Sold it all and got a Fuji XH1 with a 16-55 and a 50-140 2.8. Mm-hmm. And I loved it, and I loved it a lot. And then everybody I knew was starting to shoot Canon. So I was like, oh, I got to try Canon. So I went from Fuji back to Canon. I had a 5D Mark IV and a 1D Mark IV. And great cameras if you wanted to hit somebody and save your life if you're being attacked by a bear. Lasted 3 months and went back to Fuji. Yeah. And then I switched. I found a Z7. So I had a Z6, Z7 combo for a while. And I'll tell you, those cameras, when you nailed the image quality is incredible. But it felt like a tool. It didn't inspire me to shoot. So I would actually leave the house with an XT10 that I had. So I have thousands of dollars in Z cameras in the house. And I'd go out with my $200 XT10 with a 35 f2 on it every time I went out. So I sold it all and went back to Fuji with the XT5 and an X Pro 2. And then sold both of those. And now I'm at the GFX, which was in my top 5 of cameras that I wanted. It's the dream team. And so now I'm here to stay. I told you, man, it's been crazy.
Bro, that's okay. You had a free agent. You just tried everything.
Well, I'm
surprised. I'm surprised you hated the Canon.
I didn't hate the Canon. I fell in love with the electronic viewfinder of the Fuji, and I couldn't go back to the optical on the 5D Mark IV. It drove me crazy. Yep.
Yeah, that's a killer. That's hard to come back from, man.
Yep. And then
because
what else did I have?
I don't think Canon has ever had EVF.
Not their DSLRs. Now they have their R series. Their R5, R6, yeah. So now I realize how much Fuji meant to me. not just
Mhm.
the way it feels.
Well, I've had it. I was going to go Sony because I already had all the lenses. See, when I don't really I see why you made all the changes that you did, and I see why you went and used the cameras that you did because you had a specific purpose for those cameras. I'm assuming, correct? Right?
Y-
So,
yes.
um, when I did, when I grabbed these cameras, same thing, but I just didn't really have the luxury to go back and forth. Every brand change I've made has kind of been by proxy. So the Sony that I have was basically was always going to be for video, and I was going to take that and flip that and turn that into the A7 III, which basically would just give me a bigger sensor, and that's pretty much it. But now I got the cage on the old one, and I'm like, change right now.
Which Sony are you
Okay, just
using?
a sentimental value. Oh, you're gonna giggle. It's a Sony Alpha 6000.
Oh, nice. I want to learn how to make, some reels that catch some fire, like somebody named Nothing Steals Dreams posts. And I like your videos. Dude, I love the videos you post. Have you ever thought about,
But the video.
sorry, I was just
Talk to me.
thinking,
Talk to me.
have you ever thought about doing a step by step or building something so people can follow along on how you do your stuff? I think
Well,
people would be all over it.
I think so too, man. I hopped into a I hopped into a thread on now. This is true. This is happening right now. I hopped into a thread on Instagram, and it's a reel by this channel called Filmnatics or something like that. And I kind of like hang out and talk with those guys because seeing those guys do their stuff inspires me to do my thing, right? So I'm always kind of popping in and kind of saying, oh, hey, what are they dropping today? What kind of resources are they giving out? Things like that. He did this video. It was a commercial where he takes the he takes the camera and puts a magic arm on the camera and then attaches the magic arm to an item. In this case, it's a phone. So what it does, it kind of forces like a first person perspective of that particular item. So what he's doing is he's taking a shot and he's kind of going like this to the girl's face. But the joke is that you can see the reflection of him in her sunglass in the reel. And it's it's set to the song is called it's the opening stanza of YMCA by the Village People. It's fun to stay at the Y. And then it holds the Y, and it's just kind of like it cuts to the zoom on the glasses, and it's just kind of like why is this there? So that's the gag. I think I explained that right. Oh, but anyway, that's the gag. That's the setup. I kind of hop into the chat, and I'm kind of like, it's like today we're gonna work on removing reflections in DaVinci. I don't know, just as a goof, right? And people in the comments start liking the comment, like really like lighting the fucking like lighting it up, like for real. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, and people's like, we want to see a tutorial. We want to see a tutorial. We want to see a tutorial. I'm like, wait, can you do that?
Uh-oh.
So so I'm like, um, I may have to look up how to do it, and then well, I already have the camera.
Yep.
That was a big reason why I hadn't done anything yet, is because I wanted to get this camera and started to record the journey of what I've been doing, and that's why I had to swap the Extra One because the Extra One couldn't do video,
Yeah.
and I wanted to start really leaning into video because that's kind of like where this was always going to go. This was always going to end up. It just took me longer to get there because I couldn't really like I was working too hard. I was running on like a tread of like misery because I wanted the Sony FX3. I realized what I was doing, I was just working way too hard. Way too hard. It wasn't getting anywhere. And there's still other things that kind of don't really have the budget. Well, don't really have the luxury of boundless riches, at least not at the moment. So
I think we have the same kind of outlook on this industry and what it needs to be the space that it can be. It can be back to where it used to be, where art was actually looked at and people purchased it because they love the art.
yeah, it needs a little punk rock energy. That's what it needs. This like this is I'm going a little I know I'm kind of going a little all over the place, but bear with me here, right? Coming into this, I've always had like a a bit of like a rebellious a rebellious spark. I've always had a rebellious spark. I've never fit in with a lot of people that I grew up with. I don't really have a lot of friends. Always pretty much an outsider, whatever, right? The whole spiel, the whole spitter school. Almost living like a bit of a coyote, almost, right? So dig it. The reason why I kind of like have like this texture thought about working in art is because I like the idea of infusing punk rock energy into an art that is not always it's always kind of like stuck up, always kind of fun. A lot of I feel like a lot of photographers that I'm not really taking the shot of photographers at all. To whoever listens to this, no shots at all taken, but there are photographers out there that live and die by their work, and they can be extremely snobby. And that that's very off-putting. I think that what media networks that are coming in now, like Photo and Threads, which is where I'm meeting a lot of great people, by the way. It's kind of like a distillation of great artistry. It's wonderful. Love it. Right. So these new social networks are emphasizing that creative spark again. And that's just kind of like that's exactly what it needs. It needs like this punk rock spark. And I'd love to be at the forefront of the javelin of like, you cannot keep our creative spirit down.
I love that.
That
That's
should maybe
amazing.
raise you into battle.
I
So,
agree with you
yeah,
100%,
so
man.
stuff like that.
The gatekeepers can take their gatekeeping and their stuck-up attitudes and go fuck themselves. I want to be on the forefront of the change. I want to be just like you, man. I want to be right there behind you. You'll have the javelin. I'll just start throwing rocks, whatever we got to do. But there is room for people to change. There's room for this new generation of creative. And I don't mean by them being young. I mean by people with a different mentality and outlook to establish a community of people that will work together no matter what the project is, because they get along. They understand the end goal is to build something as a unit instead of, oh, I'm going to build something with you till round 8, and then I'm going to sucker punch you and knock you out so I can take the credit in round 9. And that's what happens way too often in this industry.
There's no other way to paint that. That's just not good.
No. And that's not what I want to see, man. I want to see collaboration between people who are ready to rock, who are ready to make things happen, who have the same outlook. Because in the end, if you work together right to the end of a project, you release that project you worked on together, you both succeed.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So
my fighting game pose are coming just kind of like this.
I love it. That's amazing.
I like thinking I like thinking of photography as kung fu a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's a time and energy thing, man. It's really all it is, bro.
So what's in the near future? What's your next go-to?
My next go-to right now is stratosphere, man. You're just going to the stratosphere, brother. That's what's next. That's what's next. I can feel it. Well, the reason why, okay, yeah, okay, how about this? I'll give you this. This is an interesting one. So the reason why all these pictures are just like just being very hard, like I try to have like hard hitting authenticity. Yeah, so this is what I kind of started to build this image god off. Like authenticity, it has to be cinematic in scope, and doesn't have to be spontaneous, but it feels more authentic if it is spontaneous. That makes sense. So a lot of these pitches that you're probably shifting through, many of them is really with a just like one directive in mind, like kind of like a style for that particular moment. It's kind of like, okay, we're going for this. Da 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 da. You get the shots, and then the person's off to the rest of the universe, unknown for whatever. And then the prints come back and they look like superheroes. It's like, wait a minute, what'd you do? I was just like, well, fairy dust, man. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. So that's kind of like the thought process in doing some of these pieces. Um, I think the advantage comes from learning Photoshop and it's inside and out. And I credit that to, you know, to that graphic design history. So when I go and start poking around and seeing who's putting out tutorials and whatnot, and I get some responses, it's kind of like you see some of the things that people are doing, and I'm like, wait, I know how to do that. Or sometimes it's something else. It's just like, oh, I don't know how to do that. So there are things out there that you can learn in the midst of doing these things. Um and I think that's had a bleed over effect into how I work on do my post work on my photography. And in creating that authenticity, you want to have pictures that look like you could print them right away. Like you can print it and it'll feel a little more authentic because you have some of that noise reproduction, you have a little more of that texture that the Fujifilm cameras add, and a lot of other cameras can't do it. Like if you try to do it with a Sony camera, it'll kind of look like it'll look like mishmash. You'll have to do a little more work in post to make it stick. But knowing the programs inside and out is kind of like a very good. It's actually benefited more than I realized because now I can take that and I can pivot and use that in something like a different program like Figma or whatever to do whatever over in Figma. Oh, so it's a good skill. It's a good skill to have. Lucky to have that skill kind of polished up enough to be able to really have a solid style working in that photography realm. So
I think
do the double.
The importance of what you're saying about learning programs inside and out, it's just like learning your camera.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things that I realized by switching so often. I never had the ability to actually get to know a camera inside and out. Right. So I was always switching brands and I was jumping all over the place, and it really affected my connection to the camera. Yeah. Getting to learn a program, your editing style, that's where, like you said, that's where that pixie dust comes from, because you're able to manipulate the image enough. I like printing big, and I also print on bamboo paper. So museum archival bamboo, because it is textured, right? So it has a texture to it, so it looks like an actual painting.
Wait, so that's what paper is?
Yeah. So it's got texture to it. So if you were to touch like a print on a canvas sheet, how it feels, that's what the bamboo feels like. And it has texture in the actual paper structure. So when you look at it, it kind of mutes the color slightly and it looks like somebody painted it. So that's my go-to paper for most of my landscape prints, just because I really, really like the way it all turns out. So
I've never used that before.
Yeah, it's nice.
Actually, I don't think I've. You know what? This is guilt. This is a bit of a guilty. Well, no, that's not true. I have printed my work before.
It's important to print your work. You would think I have prints all over my house, but I give everything away. I do prints. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to hang this one. And then somebody's like, oh, I like that photo. I'm like, oh, here you go. So I have my very first print ever. And that's the only print I have in the house. And I walk by to remember that's where I started. And man, I've come a long way.
That's good. It's good to know where you started, man.
Oh, of course. And every story, right? Every story has a starting. So, you don't forget your story because it's part of your journey, right?
Yes,
The ups, the downs, the struggles that we all deal with. I mean, that's all creates the story of who we are.
that's very true, man. I think some of the I think some of the stories you get out of the pictures can be like either they can go all sorts of right, but they're usually very emotional. And then like if you tell them in like an art gallery or something, it's very it becomes very like I don't know. It has very it sticks to your ribs more. You know, it's more
Yeah.
memorable.
The one thing I want from photos, like I want my photos to be seen 30 or 40 years from now, and I want them to
Hmm.
still tell a story. I'm not someone who wants to sit and write about what my vision was for this project or my vision was for this image. I want to post an image that requires people to look at it and they have their own opinion, their own vision of it. I don't want to explain my work. My work is my work. I posted it because I shot it and I like it. And what
Hmm.
you think of it is what you think of it. I mean, we're too busy worrying about what others think of the work we do. People are always going to love to hate. It's part of the culture. It's the way it's been forever. But if you put something you're proud of, don't worry about it because other people will see that vision. They'll see the passion you have through the image. And that's what it's
Yeah,
about.
it's funny. I've over the years I've kind of grown to like to understand like adversity. Well, let's say hate. Let's say adversity, right? And people who are adverse to your causes will come off as uh will come off as enemies. And I've kind of had to just like learn how to let that go. Like just kind of like just let him. I was just like just you know, it's all right, man. Kind of like kind of try to be better at letting things roll off, and then just taking that and pushing it in different ways. Just pushing it into different avenues, honestly. So why is it that these Canadian cities just don't get a lot of the just don't get a lot of the press, you know? Like, because I remember Vancouver when they had first had the basketball team, their first time they had the basketball team.
The Vancouver Grizzlies.
Yeah, 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 dude. That Grizzly logo was so badass.
Yeah, I'm so glad they re-released it. You can get the jerseys and the hats and stuff again in the original teal.
Yeah, that teal and that black with the orange.
Yep.
Man, clean. So good. And they had like the teal and then they had the teal with the white letters.
Yep.
Oh, dude,
We had
those
this
jerseys were cool.
at the start of Mike Bibby. Mike Bibby was a
Yeah, started Mike
Grizzly.
Bibby.
Sharif Abdul-Rahim,
Mm-hmm.
Big Country Reeves.
Sharif,
Yeah.
big country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You used to be able to get courtside
Yeah,
seats
awesome.
for $25.
Shut the front door. $25 for front door seat.
Yeah. So the reason that Canada cities or the Canadian cities don't get as much press is
Mm-hmm.
the whole population of Canada is less than the population of the state of California. So there's more people in California than all of Canada.
Wait. But Canada,
It's
that's the
huge.
entire.
Yeah. It's nuts.
Huh?
Yeah, dude. So I used to supply custom wheels and they'd call and be like, you need to order 48. And I'm like, for who? They're like, oh, this shop sold 48 in 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, but my whole country is smaller than their state in population. So we have a lot of open land. We have more uncharted and unhabitated land than anybody. Yeah, it's a cool
Wait, so
place, man.
that's crazy. So the entire so all right, so the entire population of California is what, like three
I'll tell you here in 2 seconds.
31 million? How many people? Because LA's got to be like what, 5 million people. on their own. But that's very
So the population in 2021 in California was 39.24 million people in one state.
39 million people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
the population of Canada in all of this is all of Canada. So the complete population of Canada in 2021 was 38.25 million people. That's the whole country.
That's the entire country.
Yeah. So we don't get to be a creative and a content creator in
That's
Canada
very
is very hard because we don't have the reach. We don't have, when you have I'm looking up right now. So in 2021, the population of the United States of America was 331.9 million people.
Right. Yeah. Because New York is 17 on its own.
That's insane. A lot of people. Yeah. So we don't have that reach. We also have this thing now where we don't, on our social media platforms, I don't see any news. I don't know what's going on anywhere. So, you get news pop-ups. We don't get that in Canada. They created a law, so we don't see any of the news. It's hard for the YouTube people here who are making a living on YouTube. It's really hard for them to make a living now because their followers don't get the updates. So they've done some whack-ass shit here.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But crazy how small my country is, right? It's the same width. It's the same width of the U.S. It's the same height as the U.S., but it's got a fraction of the people of the U.S. So you basically
how many people? So hold up. All right. So this changes like everything. So how many people live in Toronto?
Population of Toronto, 2.93 million.
No, wait a minute. So most of the people live in Toronto?
2,928,879 to be exact in 2024.
Bro. Because I was trying to figure out, it's wait, but Toronto's really big.
Yeah, it is. So,
they're big enough to have their own basketball team. Wow.
So the town I live in, just to give you an idea, so it's about a 40-minute drive from where I am to Vancouver. Because in Vancouver, a house the size of the home I own currently would be $4 to $5 million. That's the difference. Yeah. Vancouver's insane. So second most expensive city to live in. My population in 2024, as of right now. 10
people live there. 10 people live there.
I don't know how people afford anything there. And the amount of supercars, if you want to see supercars, Bugattis, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsches, crazy freaking G-Wagons, Rolls Royces, Aston Martins. Go to downtown Vancouver on a Friday or Saturday night, you'll probably see 100 of them. Yeah, it's nuts.
It sounds like the buy.
Yeah, there's money here for sure. But my little town, so this will make you laugh because you know how many people are in New York. My little town I live in, I think it's way too busy. 141,774 people. That's all that lives in my town. And I think it's too busy.
That's a lot of people.
Yep. But it's, when you think about it, let's see. New
York is 11 times larger.
And that's what always makes everybody wonder why I love New York so much, because I usually don't like big crowds of people, but there's something about that place. Even where I grew up in Portland, there's only 616,000 people.
Mm-hmm. Portland's kind of like a northern version of Atlanta. Atlanta's kind of fun, but it's been a bit of a shit show lately.
I love I love the rapper and the hip hop type photos, the DJ with all the smoke around him. I love how you capture those moments, man.
Yeah, dude, those were fun times, brother. I think some of those guys went on to do really good stuff. Like that was like a breeding ground of just like great underground DJ talent.
Nice.
So we are really able to get some great images out of it. Um, I mean, a lot of those guys just kind of like scattered because time passes or whatever.
Yeah,
But fun times, man.
it looks like it, man. You go back
Great memories.
through your feed, and there's just so much fun. There's fun, there's awesomeness everywhere. People need to look at it more.
I try to tell people, man, like y'all, because you see like there's a lot of trash on Instagram these days.
Yes.
Like, like I don't like I've taken. I know it's gonna sound weird when I say this. I've taken a sabbatical from butts. Okay, like I'm not acting like usually when at some point dudes just was scrolling through Instagram just looking at butts. Yeah, so they're out there. And it's like at this point in my life, I'm like, listen, I'm trying to I'm trying to curate some greatness over here. So we we appreciate them and they're nice to see, but we don't really want to see them over here. That's all it is. It's just like, no, no, no. And sometimes they just put it in your face. It's like, here, motherfucker, here, look. Like I'm just like, I'm just like, come on, dude. Like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? So I do try to tell people, it's like, look, you want to get away from the trash, to have a scroll, you know, there's some good stuff there.
There's some great stuff, and everybody should take a look at it because you're very versatile. There's not just, they aren't all the same. So I always have a problem with
Hmm.
portfolio or Instagram profiles that every photo is the same color. It's the same look. It doesn't show you have any, you can't fluctuate yourself. You're so busy being in the same category all the time. That was a big thing when Instagram first came out. Everything has to be the same.
Hmm.
Don't change
Hmm.
it. I never could
Hmm.
do that. One post today, man, I took 18 bangers. You're getting 18 photos. That's just the way I've always, that's my philosophy with posting my stuff is if I like the photos, I'm not going to wait. They're all going to go up.
Right. I think that when you say, it's funny you talk about how the speeds kind of like look all the same. And I think what's going on is that people have gotten into like this funk of curating, feeling like if everything is uniform, then it'll be more appealing. But what happens when you do that is that you limit your curation abilities. What happens is people get into like this malaise of curating all their items the same in order to make it more appealing, and then they get stuck curating like. So I think what needs to change is how people see how they curate their work and really treat their Instagram like an art gallery. If you do that, then it'll be more enjoyable. It's like I don't give a shit about followers like that because guess what? If you find that art gallery, you're gonna enjoy it, so you're gonna stay and keep on scrolling. If you want to see more, you gotta follow. That's just how it works. So if you do it that way, the Instagram retains its authenticity, and that's why. So I can see why you adopt the strategy you do. So that's the strategy that I do.
Let's get serious. Let's talk about your creative process. Let's talk, whatever you want to talk about. I've got another hour. So if you want to,
Okay, good. Okay, so creative influences, honestly, was just film, just just all sorts of cinematic ideas. Since that was like my natural form of expression, I wanted to find a way to really just distill that into like one picture. Just tell the story of like that time in that one photo. Right. Even tricking myself into using just one focal length. Well, the 35, I'll run the 35 one for because that's the well, it's the only one I need. It's the only one I need. And I think it's just useful to understand how you can frame with your eyes because all the time those pictures you shoot at 35, you're you're using your eyes. It's like you're using your eyes. So that's why observation is so important. That's why learning to keep things in center frame is so important. And this is one thing I enjoy that what's happening in films now. And check this out. Every time you can watch a film, you can learn something new. And a lot of times, the people in the movies are literally telling you how they're making the movies. They're literally telling you, keeping things in center frame. You know, making sure your light is, making sure your subject is evenly lit. Since it's cinematic, you're always shooting at 24 frames. Stuff like that. And now we're basically taking those ideas and using it to frame in photography. That's basically how it works. And sometimes what I'll do is imagine using the actual cinema cameras and framing for cinema cameras. So for example, framing for 70 millimeter, framing for certain aspect ratios, use bigger aspect ratios. This is a fun this is a fun thing I learned uh from Seamus McGarvey. Seamus McGarvey worked on was the DOP for Avengers 1. So he shot Avengers 1. So the idea, I really love this explanation and why he chose to shoot it at 1.851 instead of your typical 16:9. He said this because since the Avengers was billed as an event film, he wanted to make the heroes look as tall and you know make the heroes look tall and huge like heroic figures so you could sell the idea that these Avengers were going to save the universe. So instead of shooting at the typical wide, decided to shoot taller. And since then, all those Avengers movies have always tried to shoot in like IMAX or something to make their heroes look really, really big. Sells the experience, right? Now I love that because now I can take a look at that and say, okay, what if I could practice it on a smaller scale using what I have to present my pictures? And there you go. That's how you come to that cinematic conclusion. So to even sell it more by using Fujifilm cameras, you get that little texture right there on your photos, right? So you print it and it looks like a still from a film. The first time I did that with the X100S and I started experimenting and shooting it, the first comment that I got is saying it looked like it was from a movie. And I'm like, exactly. You get it. So that's really kind of like the selling bit. That's kind of like the process. That's why I wanted to look authentic because if you visualize it as an authentic scene, you could sell it better and you could tell the story more convincingly.
But I know that explanation of it, that you can grab inspiration by, I love watching documentaries on photographers or cinematographers because there is those little things that you don't notice when you watch the film, but when they explain it, it just like that button clicks.
Right. So now you can go back and watch that film in that new context and enjoy it from a different perspective. And I'm just like, yeah. You know what now would be even funnier if they decide to put out Avengers 1 again at some point in theaters to celebrate like the 10-year anniversary or something. I'll be there because I'm a goofy person who never imagined that the comic books that he read as a kid would be reimagined as movies, which is the greatest thing in the universe. Like, come on. So if they do manage to put Avengers 1 back in theaters, I'll be back in theaters. And I'll actually sit in the front because it'll make everybody look 15 feet tall.
Huge, yeah. That's awesome.
Like, I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about looking up at Iron Man's junk.
As long as he doesn't give you a forehead tap, you're good.
Oh, no.
Nate's going to be at the top of the theater now.
Yeah, I'll just be watching from the projector room and then just all the way in the back. Just like this.
So here's a question for you, since I haven't really asked you any. We've just kind of had way too much fun on this episode. What advice do you have for anybody just, they're somewhat established, they've kind of got their style, but now they want to take the next step. They want to get jobs, they want to work professionally. What advice do you have for them in getting started? What maybe some pitfalls to avoid that you've had to deal with in your journey?
I'll start with the pitfalls because they're fresh in my mind. I mean, learn business and understand who's there to help you and who's there to take advantage. Um, if you can't do it, find someone who can and pay him. Find the person, build a crew. Don't do it on your own. Don't do it on. If you can, don't do it on your own. Like I've had a lot of help. I've had a lot of people help me out throughout the course of my career, and I'm not ashamed to say that because my success is their success as well. And if I was to give any person who's starting out advice on how to do it, it's really I mean, really just go. Like just hit record, pick up the camera, you know, just get out there and make a little something. I mean, I know it's hard for me to it's hard for me to be the to say that and not uphold that example now, but it's really just a matter of just picking it up and doing it because if because it may be your first time and you may not feel like you're ready. No, you're ready. You're ready because you're making the decision to do it. And that's all the motivation you need. So that would kind of like be my advice for young whippy snappies. I had a better speech prepared, to be honest, and I completely forgot it. I know that's gonna sound like a huge letdown because I've really been thinking about this because like there's I know um there's a lot of young people out there working in the field now, and they're kind of like bright eyed and bushy tailed, and I gotta tell them like, hey, listen, Tiger, uh, you've gotta you gotta watch your back. You've got to watch your back. Um, there are people who are going to, there are people going to try to take advantage of you, and there are going to be people that are going to want to give you advice, and it's up to you to be discerning and use that as a basis to carry yourself forward. Um, I don't know, man. Some of these young guys, they don't know about it, but that's okay. You got to I mean, this is that beacon for all of them to kind of say, hey, what you're doing is good. You know, understand who your allies are, understand what your pitfalls or obstacles may be, your strengths, your weaknesses, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You've already made the decision to do it. So the only thing now that you are doing it, is that you can't stop doing it. So you got to be okay with taking some bumps and bruises.
Throwing that advice out there. It's also good for people to know that there is groups of people that are willing to help. That's where the whole community over competition thing came from.
Yeah.
Is that your success shows me that, when someone in the group has success, that just shows me there's a way to get there. That if, they've done it, I can do it too. Anything's achievable if we put our mind to it.
With the advice, that's really just kind of like all I can say. Like, just like, if you're doing it, keep doing it. Don't stop. If you love it enough, then it's going to be easy for you to not want to stop. So that's really the best thing I can give back. It's funny that photography kept drawing me back over all this time. like even after like quitting like multiple times. So I mean, I'm glad people see it now, but well,
You put in your 10,000 hours for sure.
I don't even know how many hours I put it in anymore.
Yeah. Well, Nate, why don't you throw
Oh
me
no.
throw the best places for people to find you online? I'll post them
Okay,
in the show
so
notes as well.
if you want to see more of my art, you can check me out at Nothing Still Dreams on both uh Threads and Instagram. I don't have a Twitter. Don't ask. I I have a TikTok, but I don't know if I should promote it.
Why not?
Oh, it might not even matter, and it might even matter in 6 months, bro. Like
Oh, yeah, I heard
the
there's something going
they're
on.
talking, yeah, they're trying to ban it or something like that because people don't know how to act. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna keep it like that. So, uh, I think how about this for the people out there? If you are dead set on finding my TikTok, the only clue I'm gonna give you is that it has my name in it. That's it. So if you want to find it, consider this an Easter egg hunt. If you want to find my TikTok, and if you feel like it's interesting, you want to hang out there, great. But you have to find it. I'm not going to tell you what the name is.
It has his name in it, folks.
So you see what I'm trying to do, trying to put to interactivity, whatever. No, whatever. So Instagram is Threads is nothing still dream. I have a view bug. Now I don't know if you know what view bug is.
Viewbug. No, I've never heard of
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So view bug, you actually have a group of photographers who are on there, and you can participate in contests, and you can um, order prints.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Life of Phys Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our chat, and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content and the stories of our incredible guests. And remember to stay connected with us on all social media platforms. It's at LIFE.OF.PHYS, and discover even more stories from the community over competition movement. Have a great day.